Action. And cut.
Have you ever been that angry that you just wanted to punch through a wall because beating up your wife? Tell you what, it's not good for your physical health, but it's also not great for your mental health. So today I'm going to show you how you can punch through a wall in Blender 3D. Let's go. So I have this little clip here where, I'm in my little swole hole and, I pretend to punch through a wall or something. We'll see what it's going to look like. And then, look at this acting.
And cut.
Great. Now what we're trying to do is having a little brick wall here for whatever reason, like a pillar, could be anything. And I'm punching right through it. And for that, I need Blender. Even the reason why I'm doing this tutorial, it's not a real tutorial, it's basically just me trying to get through the process once, because I shot a short film with Aramis Merlin and Brady Hapner. You might have seen him in The Black Phone. And Brady, in 2 occasions, he's punching through walls, and I don't want to make those effects for the first time for the short film, so that's why I'm trying to practice. And I figured while I practice, might as well make a video for you guys so you can see my process and maybe even add your ideas how you would make it better. So it's not a tutorial per se, it's just like being here with me, watching me struggle, and it's always a good time for everyone, right? Watching someone struggle, it's great. All right, the first thing we do is we have my little default scene. We have Miho here, and we have my camera, which I don't need when I motion track. I still want to keep my Miho here because, just as a reference, I just talked about it in my mistakes video, that how important scale is. So when you have a real person, me in the end, in the scene, it'd be great to have someone in scale like Miho. I know he's a little taller than me, so I can scale the scene properly. So the first thing we do is we go to motion tracking and drag and drop our video here. We set scene frames, prefetch. You've seen me doing the tracking so many times, so I'm just gonna scrub through it. But if you are interested in how to do this process, I made a whole tutorial. It's in the description, or I'll probably link it up here. Let's get started. I'm just gonna have him standing in front of me right now, so I know this is where my little wall is gonna be. A few things I need to adjust in the camera settings. I want to see my background here 100%, not on 50%. Yeah, the tracking is not perfect, but for tutorial purposes, it'll do. I'm gonna remove my little Miho for now. I don't need the light either. Fun fact, my gym in my house is called the Swole Hole. Okay. As you can see in this fat gut here that I'm not using it enough. Anyway, so now we need to add our little brick wall or whatever we want to do. And then we need to destroy it. So I'm going to start with adding a cube. Try to make it the right size, the way I want. Put it to the right position, right in front of me. Smaller, but longer, rotate it perfectly. So now it's there. Let's see how it's moving in perspective. It has to be a little further away from me, closer to the camera. Even though the tracking is not perfect here, we can not fix it, but we can hide it in post by adding just additional camera shake to everything. Just a little trick, what I always like to do with footage like that, which is not perfectly tracked. But I think that'll do, and then I punch through it, bam. Yeah, is it too thick? No, it's not too thick. What I'm gonna do is just bring the bottom to the ground. And every time you change the size of something, apply the scale. Very important for the textures, how it's, the dynamics, everything. Super important. Okay, now we're gonna give it a little material. It looks a little tilted. Yeah, we have to cheat here a little. It's not tilted like that. Yeah, this is not the right way to do those things, but I'm glad that I'm doing that now, that I go through all this process and all the problems now. So when I actually make the real effect, I'm a little better prepared. The important thing is when I actually hit it, it's at the right spot, which is gonna be, this is where I punch it. This is where it's gonna break. I'm gonna move it a little to the right, so that's where it's gonna be. So we're gonna do a few things to it. We're gonna shade smooth here. And what else? I'm gonna bevel the edges a little because no edges are perfectly sharp in reality, so that's why I beveled them. I made them a little round, as you can see up here. Okay, now I'm gonna give it like a material. We could give it like concrete. By the way, I got a question in my comments if it's Pokemon Go in my background. Yes, it is. I have a second phone here and Pokemon Go is just playing in the background. And the beautiful thing about this one single spot here, just this in my entire house, is that my character is just running around in circles automatically, but only here. And only on my second phone. That doesn't work on my iPhone. This is a Samsung phone or a Google phone. So basically to hedge eggs, that works. I'm not a nerd, I promise. Anyways, let's give this thing break so it looks all badass. So as you can see, let's check it out in this view. Our breaks don't look right on this thing. So there's a few things we can do about it. The first thing, which we already did, is apply scale. If you don't know how to do that, you click on your object, you select your object, Control A, and then you apply the scale. But we did that already. And I just gave it a material from one of my libraries. But if you just give a random object a material, you have to adjust a few things. First one is, instead of UV, you want to use the object as the vector. Now it looks even worse. Okay, and now we have the texture 4 times here. It's always set to flat, but we have to set it to box because that's what we have here. It's a box. Box. So we did that, and as you can see, it looks already way better. Probably even perfect. Again, it's like I always have a hard time seeing scale properly in 3D. I don't know if it's like just like some mental disorder of mine, but I believe those are a little too big. And now we can adjust the scale here. Either we in the mapping node we change those 3 numbers the same. What I like to do is I'm adding another node called value, plug this into scale, so now all the 3 values I can adjust them gradually or equally here. Or I could have just changed the numbers, but I like to do that. Adding this little node here makes it easier. So cool, now I have this brick wall here. And really, now the difficult part is gonna start because I have to punch through my brick wall. Unfortunately, I can't see through my brick wall. Let me change the name to wall. So I have to go through the shots and see exactly when I'm gonna punch through. This is basically the impact here. When I turn it back on, I see, oh, I actually didn't even punch the wall. So that means I have to move my wall to the right. And then I smack it. I have a feeling it has to be a little closer to me. I might not be able to reach it. It's like, to me, it's so difficult to determine where does it exactly have to be. A little closer to me. Yeah, I'm a little irritated that, you know, the tracking is not perfect here, but it's just a tutorial, guys, so cut me some, what's the expression? Slack? Cut me some. Let me know in the comments below what the expression is. Cut me some, I think it's cut me some slack. What is a slack? Anyway, so I'm going to punch through this thing here. And again, I need to figure out the frame exactly. I'm going to hide this. With H, you can hide things. Where is the impact? This is frame 321. Okay, unhide this bad boy. This is where I punch through it. I again feel like it has to be more to the right. Camera right. Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna touch it anymore. Bam. That's when I punch through it. So 321 is our frame where the punch is happening. So I'm gonna stay on this frame. I'm gonna save. Now is the tricky part. There is ways to destroy things in Blender. The problem is that all those settings are all over the place. You have to fracture it, you know, then you have to make it a rigid body, fracture so it's pieces, and then a rigid body so it's actually has physics on it so it can fall apart. Then dust particles and smoke particles, stuff like that. And luckily, someone who's way smarter than me made a plugin called RBD Lab. Cost, what is it, $69, $77 for the entire pack. This is not sponsored, but it could be. So I'm gonna use that plugin. So if you want to do this plugin free, I might need to do another tutorial on that because that would be like way longer. But we're gonna use RBD Lab today. So again, we're gonna save, and this is, to me, a very complicated process. So if you are smarter than me, and I'm sure you are, let me know what I'm doing wrong here. So in this plugin here, we have so many different settings. We can go there step by step and get our results we want. So the first one is, I want to fracture this thing. So we have like the maximum amount of chunks. It's 1,000. I don't think we need that many. Let's do half of it. Noise, I don't think we need that much noise. There is no wood in here. Scale, let's keep it there for now. I'm gonna save again because I'm nervous. And then when we click on fracture, this is what's happening. It basically gave us this weird chunks. It's not my favorite, so I'm gonna change a few values real quick. Let's just go 0 on the Y scale, fracture it again. See if we like that better. I do like this better. Go Command, Control, what is it? Control Z, Windows user. Let's go 0 on the Z, fracture again, and that's definitely not what we want. When we go 0 on X, but let's go 1 on Z, fracture it again. Okay, that's getting closer because our bricks are kind of that shape. So I'm gonna go 1 on Z and maybe 0.1 on Y, fracture it again. Okay, I think I'd be happy with that because even though it's not perfect, like the bricks falling apart, I think this is close enough. Yeah, this is good. Okay. So now when we look through here, this is where I'm gonna punch through. And what are we gonna do next? We're gonna apply some details. That's where we are. Now we're gonna go to physics. And the first thing I do is I add ground. It is important so our bricks don't just fall through space. So now when I add physics, it's actually gonna you know, stay on some ground. Okay, I added the ground. Now the important part is add rigid bodies. That means it actually has physics. It has a weight. It's gonna collapse, you know. So I add rigid bodies. I'm gonna save before because I'm scared, and I added rigid bodies. Now you see it just collapses. One reason for that is it just falls to the ground. we tilted our little wall here. We tilted it, we have to bring it back to where it was before and bring it closer to the ground so it's not just gonna fall. So now it's just collapsing, which is fine, because the next thing we need to do on this thing, let me just go back to frame number 21 where I punched through it, 321. Yeah, so this is where I have to punch through it. Next one is constraints. We want to add constraints to our thing, meaning we want to glue it together. So I create a group, so now it's just standing there, you know, it's not falling apart. And I want to smack an object through it, not my actual fist, because my fist is not real. Well, it is real, it's right here, but it's not real in the 3D environment. So I need to add a little object which is gonna punch through this thing. And I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna add, let's say, a little cube, smaller. And for that, it's also helpful to have my little Mihao here. I'm gonna have the cube the size of his hand. So I know kind of what size a fist is. So it's kind of the same size. I'm just gonna add this here. Doesn't have to be perfect, but more or less. Okay, I'm gonna apply scale. Now, on 321 on this frame, it's gonna, okay, I'm gonna get one frame further, a few frames further. First I need to bring it on, like, you know, fist height where I'm gonna punch. Okay, this is tricky stuff. Like I said, I've never really done that before, so making lots of mistakes, but this is fun stuff. So I'm basically bringing this cube on the frame 323. So right after I actually bless you, thank you. Right after I hit the wall, this is where I'm gonna bring the cube on frame 323 and add a keyframe on the location. Okay, now I'm gonna go a few frames before. See, my fist is back here. I'm gonna bring the same cube a little back where the fist is coming from. You might wonder what I'm doing here. Basically, I'm trying to simulate my fist going through this wall. That's why I'm gonna make this thing here a rigid body too. So I'm gonna go here to physics, rigid body. This one is passive because I don't want it to fall, but it's also animated. The shape is a box. And now when I play the entire thing through, let's save real quick, it should, that's the annoying part, that it's such a long video. I have to watch the entire thing through. So you see my box flying around here. I'm gonna make it invisible eventually when I'm done with it, but I still need it for this part. In my big rigid bodies, I have the simulation here, and I can start the simulation in a certain frame, and I can end the simulation in a certain frame. I didn't do that, and that's why it didn't do what I wanted it to do, but now I fixed it. So now when we watch through this entire thing, I have my little fist cube here. This is going to simulate my real fist. And then when I actually hit it, it's going to run right through the wall and magic happens. Nice. Okay. Okay, there's a few things I need to adjust. See how those are sticking together? I don't want it like that. So I'm going to go back to my constraints, to my glue. Those are my glue settings. How much it's glued together. I'm gonna reduce it to 3. I hope it's not just gonna fall apart by itself. That's the problem. You have to go as low as possible to not have it fall apart by itself, or like high enough so it's not gonna fall apart by itself. But then when it actually breaks, I want it to break completely. I don't want it to be glued at all. So let's just go to 1 and see what happens. The good thing is, now I figure out that you can start the simulation at a certain frame, so I can technically just almost go to 0. So by the time of the impact, it's just gonna fall apart basically. including the force. Yeah, that's what I want. That's perfect. Bam. Okay, we're getting closer, guys. Okay, next one is I'm gonna go to particles. I'm gonna add debris. I'm gonna add dust, and I'm gonna add smoke, because why not? And now when I watch through all this, I should have some kind of debris action going on, and it's gonna get us way closer to our final result. Bam. See here? All those little blue balls here, blue balls, are gonna be dust particles in the end. It's just simplified here in my preview, but that's pretty cool. My only thing is, I wish those debris would fall into the camera, but I guess it's more realistic. For the film, I'm gonna make sure those debris fall right into the camera, since this is gonna be like more of like an Instagram, TikTok, Facebook video. It's not that important, but definitely something to keep in mind. The way I would change this is to have the fist come in a little more from the left, so the debris or the fist is coming closer directly into the camera, like this, you know, and then the debris are gonna follow. But for this one in particular, it's fine if it's not happening. So what I needed to do is turn off my cube. I'm gonna bake my simulation, because then it's like in there. I don't need my Mihal anymore. And now the most important thing is to, you know, add proper lighting and stuff like that. So there's two ways on doing that. My favorite way is having an HDRI, something which looks similar to my actual location. Here are my options. I have overhead lighting here in my garage, so it'd be nice if there was something like that. If not, I can just add my own lights, but HDRIs are always good for like reflections and whatnot. Those are the options I have. There's overhead lighting here. I think that'll work because the colors of the thing look very similar to my colors. I'm gonna go with that one. All right, so this is what the lighting would look like. I'm gonna make my ground a shadow catcher, so I don't actually see it in my render, just a shadow. Click on shadow catcher. Now I'm gonna see what this frame would look like when it's actually rendered, because my preview is just a preview, it doesn't give me the final result. That's why sometimes you just have to render one frame to see what it looks like. All right, it took exactly 7 minutes and 33 seconds to render one frame, and this is what it looks like. It's not terrible actually. I would actually adjust maybe the materials a little, but it does look pretty cool. I have a little dust flying around, and I think in the movement it's gonna be decent. The problem is to render this 7 minutes per frame, it's gonna take a while. I wanted to upload the video today, but I guess I'm just gonna upload a few days later. But one thing I'm gonna do is just adjust my materials a little. When I click on my material here, that's the inner mat, I want the outer mat. Oh, that's the inner mat, I can't even adjust that. So maybe I'm just gonna give the inner mat, you know, the bricks inside, more of a brownish tone, so it looks more like the brick, because I think brick has the same color inside and outside. Let's go to my materials here, the actual brick. I want to see if I can adjust my roughness a little on my normal map. Let's see what I can do with my normal map. A great way is always to just add a ramp in between, just to increase the contrast a little. And that's basically it. I'm gonna render this in different passes. I'm not gonna render it the way you saw it before. I'm gonna render just the bricks, like just my animation basically, on one layer. And just the shadows on another layer. And then I'm gonna have my video separate, and then in post I can adjust the colors of everything separately to you know, make it match best. Because imagine I render out everything on one layer, everything is basically together. When I change the reds, I'm gonna change the reds on everything, and that's basically just the last step what I want to do. So I want to, you know, adjust and color match everything separately, and then in the end I'm gonna put like a you know, color correction on everything together to bring it all together. And maybe I'm gonna add a little film noise just to make it look more real. Maybe a little flare, because you see here, for example, I have a little flare going on, and here I'm gonna add this to my actual object too, so it just feels more real. So I feel like that was a great practice run for the actual film. I'm very excited when this is gonna come out. You saw a few clips already when you were on my Instagram. It's gonna be a very cool film. It's gonna take a long time to make, but I'm excited. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you have anything to add to, you know, make something like that way better, because I'm sure you're smarter than me. I know you're smarter. Let me also know in the comments below. Like the video if you haven't already, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and see you in the next video. Doo-doo-doo.